Are we ready? Are you ready? You know, you better know. Let's check it out. Hey, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Brother Taalib Show, your friendly neighborhood Muslim. I'm here again doing a show with dealing with wealth building and the economics in as far as global is concerned throughout the world, especially Africa. I'm going to be letting you listen again. This is the second part, actually, to the video that I did before to a well-renowned doctor. Her name is Dr. Harnet, certified business trainer, African business coach, and consultant. She's an entrepreneur. She owns her own business. Her business is actually her academy that she does her instructions and has other instructors to help in relation to what she teaches in her courses, such as even import export and bridging the paths of business from America to Africa, from Europe to Africa, from different parts of the world to Africa, the Caribbean to Africa, especially for African diasporans. But anybody who is you can this is not a color boundary or anything like that neither. So which is good. She's a global person. She's not a per se Pan Africanist, but or just pro black person. No, she's more universal with her herself and how she goes about. But she is, you know, about empowering African and African diasporan people, of course, because this is needed, is well needed, as we should know. A lot of us, our people, have been damaged through white supremacists, if you want to say, white supremacist dominance all over the world, especially in Africa, and the likes of the people who were taken as slaves and the likes of this. So basically, she's doing her job and her contribution to help raise the people's minds about what they need to know in relation to that, and just on a global basis, like I said. So I'm gonna let you listen to her again from like the last video. Inshallah, let me cue it up again because my phone kind of went out of whack. Here we go. And it's basically she was speaking on the point where we left off, dealing with what the Great Depression and what's actually coming. So just listen up, okay?
What is the real issue? And that is that a big depression is on the horizon. What is a depression in economic terms? An economic depression is a sustained long-term downturn in economic activity in one or more economies. It is a more severe economic downturn than a recession, which is really a slowdown in economic activity over the course of a normal business cycle. So most of you will remember the big recession or the Great Recession of 2008 and 2009, and how really many of us were impacted upon, and we saw a slowdown in the economy. And a lot of people lost their jobs overnight, businesses closed overnight, and we could really see the impact it had on our personal lives. And I actually want to ask you, dear African Business Jumpstarters, who was impacted upon personally during the Great Recession of 2008 and 2009? Let me ask you, let's see in the comment section. Let us know if you remember that time and how you remember it, and have you been impacted by it personally, or your family has been impacted. Okay, me, I was impacted. Yes, I was. So many of you.
Yeah, I wanted to just stop there because for me, as she asked, which you can see. Well, actually, you can't see. She had like over 5,000, excuse me, 500 people in capacity, full capacity in her sitting in this session. And subhanallah, she's great. She really drops some jewels, and she gives you a lot of information. That she does research, and she also lets us know that we should research as well as ourselves. Those who are in her program, I'm not in her program at this time because I'm doing my own type of educational foundation for me to go head forth. And I am an entrepreneur, so I've started a business. I have a small business with my wife, and also I'm dealing with investing into cryptocurrencies. Those of you who are watching this um, right now, or this is the first time you've actually been watching these videos, so but most of the people who've been watching, they know what I'm into pretty much. I've been doing the videos for a while. But basically, she hit some good points on this area dealing with the Great Depression and then how it relates to what's happening now, which is it's going to be a greater depression coming, a greater downfall, financial downfall, greater you know, financial reset and wealth transfer and all nine. And the wealth transfer usually, as it goes on, it's always going the same way because the people who control the wealth, they just make a different transfer between what they was using before to what they're using in the present time and into the future as technology basically advances itself. And this is the point. Technology is advancing into the digital realm of things. So we have to be ready. We have to know, are we going to be able to go along with what's going on? Are we still in the past and living according to the what we were taught as we were born, and well, actually not as we was born, when we became adults and we were able to function in society without the guidance and the parental supervision of our parents, because there are a lot of things before that time you didn't have to do for yourself because your parents took care of it. But then after that, what did you have to do? You had to get a bank account, had to learn how to save money, yeah, of course, you had to get a job, working. I can, I'm saying it out of order, but working first and getting a job, and then getting a bank account. Uh, Even before that, actually going to school, I would say for most, but it's still some people that wasn't their reality. The reality more was working, maintaining a job, and it didn't have to necessarily mean that you went to college, but college was a higher learning, of course, as we know it, and it allowed you to get knowledge of advanced areas of career or skills that you needed to use basically to go into the workforce and get better jobs per se, which not everybody did. But anyway, back to the point. You can go with Robert Kiyosaki and hear about that stuff, and he'll tell you. But you know, back to her and what she's talking about. So listen up again.
Are actually saying, yes, we do remember that time. And I lost 20,000 in my house. I was impacted directly, some say indirectly. I lost a job of 10 years. Yes, my wife lost her job. We had foreclosure. I filed for bankruptcy. I lived in New York and it was terrible. There was no hiring. My property was seized, and so on. I lost stock investments. So this is just in our small community here, and it's coming in so fast. I lost property, home value. I lost my home. I lost my home. I was impacted. So
What she's doing, she's talking about the people who are in the room, and that which I see so many that's coming in about how they were impacted by the great, well, we could say Great Recession, 2008, 2009, because some people didn't even notice it. Goes to show you how uh, you know we're not like cognizant. We're not in connection or knowing what's happening. We're not aware of what's going on in the mass. and we allow media, we allow people who are at the top to influence us, or more or less to blind us, better to say, and not allow us to see. They influence us to think what they think because they're at the top, they're the mainstream, then it's correct and it's right all the time. And you can't question it, or you won't go to the other side because you're going to be considered as a conspiracy theorist. You understand? And this is how they label you. They put these labels up so they can block out what is actual truth that's coming out. Not all the time is truth, but most of the time it is. It is no longer a theory, it's an actual fact. And as we know, the things have come to be during the pandemic era. And the pandemic itself was revealed by people who spoke about this type of stuff that was going to happen. And they would call it, and some of these people are known as doomsday preppers, and conspiracy theorists, anti-government people, whatever you want to call it. you know, and they a lot of them was putting stuff like this out ahead of time. They were saying that eventually would be some major catastrophe, some major issue that would come, some major setback to the global world, let alone just America. So listen to up to whatever else he was speaking as well.
All of you actually lost their home. It was a difficult time, you're saying, and many of you lost money, stocks, business, your job, and a home. And this is in 2008, 2009, and you can see, how really, your feedback is flooding in here. Now, let's go back to the presentation. That was the Great Recession of 2008, 2009. Okay. Now, what we are really facing is a big depression, a Great Depression. And that means 2008, 2009 has been a walk in the park compared to what's going to come. And what I really want to let you know here is that I have not followed some kind of people who are spreading conspiracy theories. Over the last few weeks, I have followed economists, fund managers, financial experts, and people who are our leaders in government and business. These are the people I followed, and that's the base of research that I want to share with you today.
Okay, you hear what she's saying? She's not talking from those people I mentioned before she came. I let you listen to what she just now said. She's talking about people who are reputable according to the society as a whole, or societies throughout the world globally. Economists, and global economists, not just American economists. Um, what else? Banking institutions, big time institutions, government, different entities of people in place, in position, known to be, at higher levels of position. That's, you know, speaking on the issue of a coming of a Great Depression, a big, huge depression that made the recession of 2008, 2009 look like a walk in the park. This is her unquote. This is her statement. And that, and her statement isn't nothing different. Like, she spoke from the people who she got most of what she's getting and bringing in this presentation, excuse me, to us. And people even besides those people that she follows. I know of this stuff as well. MashaAllah, tabarak wa ta'ala. I'm not nobody, but I know what my research that I've done is similar. I'm just saying there's several people, many people who know this and know what's going on. You need to know this. Are you ready? You need to know this. And this is the point.
2008, 2009, is going to be a walk in the park. And what they're saying, we're really going to face a big economic depression globally that we have not seen, listen to this, since 1929. So basically, they're comparing what's going to come with the Great Depression of 1929, which hit the USA and Europe in particular, and was felt again also across the world. Here you can see pictures from that Great Depression where we had mass unemployment. You can see people here queuing, and actually you see a lot of white American men. And what you can tell from the people who are queuing to get some kind of support or employment,
the video
these are poor people.
I'm sorry. The video is there for you. It's called Part One: The Big Global Reset and How to Avoid Business Failure in Africa in 2021. And I think on from there. But it's Dr. Harnet, which is spelled Harnet, and you can check her video out and see for yourself. All right.
These are people, look, they are dressed in nice coats with suits and a hat. These are people from the middle classes and the upper middle classes who suddenly faced mass unemployment. These are people who owned businesses who were then queuing for jobs. We can see, a poverty that suddenly spread in the United States. For those who were already poor, it really pushed them on the existence of survival. On the edge for survival and fighting for their existence. But we also see people who were in the middle class who suddenly faced poverty that they had never experienced. We saw a lot of hunger happening in that time. We saw a lot of unrest happening in that time. You can see the pictures. We would see protests and looting and unrest. Police, having to safeguard property and people. And of course, there was also a huge rise in crime and really anarchy in some areas. And we also saw banks completely collapsing. To an extent, dear Africa Business Jam starters, that bank accounts were closed. And they were closed first.
Now, I wanted to speak on that point with the banks. A lot of us know who have studied about the Great Depression, when it happened, and what it did to on a high level impact of scale to the people in their lives. Just really messed them up. Some people even committed suicide, as far as the worst of the results that came about from this impact. The people really realized that what was going to be even worse through seeing the banks. And this is the point: the banks closing or shutting down their system of transactions, where they weren't going to no longer allow people to withdraw money, because at some point they didn't have it. They couldn't afford to pay any people any money. That the people were rushing to the banks to get, and being on long lines, full lines. They show, like she was saying, people going to the banks and trying to withdraw money because they needed it. They needed to use their money to live because of what was going on. So this is taking place today, in a sense. It may be a slower pace, or maybe a coming to type of pace as you get to see it. But people are going without financially, and they don't know where to turn to. Some people don't even have really like bank accounts like that, or savings. So they live check to check. A lot of people in these times live check to check, myself included, in a sense. Until recently, when I started investing in cryptocurrency. But anyway, so basically, these people are struggling today due to the lack of money that's there. And they're waiting for stimulus checks coming from the government, governmental help and assistance. You're still on the scale with unemployment, still on on the scale with welfare and the likes of social services and all of these systems they're relying on, and it's not fulfilling the needs of the majority of the people in the country, let alone globally. And I'm not going to even speak about the global part, but it's everybody in their countries or in lands are being affected in the same kind of way, pretty much, excluding those people who have different types of ways of gaining wealth or accumulating wealth or having a flourishing economical system in their land. Then it's totally different, and they adopt the way that is going to be beneficial and functional for their wealth to continue on and not lost, not get a major loss because of, such as we say, banks getting shut down and the likes of this. Because if our banks get totally shut down, what are you going to do? You can't get your money. So are you ready? Again, let's go back.
For a few days, then for a few weeks. And then we had bank accounts closed in the United States for 3 to 5 years.
Sure.
And that means that people who actually were from, well-off families, they had businesses, they had jobs, they had possibly even investment in stocks, they had savings, they had all of that, they had assets such as houses. Suddenly, they were unable to really take care of themselves and their families because, well, that access to their financial to their financials were suddenly blocked, and they could not access the money that was sitting in the accounts. All right. Here is a picture from Germany, who also faced a huge recession, huge downfall in the Great Depression in the 1920s. Here you see 200 Milliarden Mark, which basically means 200 billion marks. 200 billion. This is a banknote for 200 billion. Why? Because we experienced hyperinflation at that time, so much so that money became completely useless. And they had to print bigger and bigger banknotes. On the left-hand side, you can see a lady waving.
Now, what does that remind you of? These times, what is the government doing? Printing trillions. And why? Inflation is high because of the lack of funds, you know, and the circulation of money is not going on as it's supposed to. So they have to print and print and print so that they can bring back and try to give the economy a spark up again, you know, and it doesn't do any good because it just contributes to higher inflation and taxes. And this is it. This is what just listen again.
The banknotes and a man waiting for it to be weighed because simply you could not count them anymore, so you had to weigh them. On the right hand side you see German children playing with huge chunks of banknotes because basically they were nothing worth anymore. The reason why Germany in particular very early fell into this huge depression and hyperinflation was because when it came out of the First World War, it had to pay a lot of repatriation and debt to some of the superpowers who asked for money to make up for some of the losses during the war. And so what Germany did, it would print money. It would print and print and print, and then saying, oh, this is a great way to pay off everything we earn, and it would print more and print more and print more. And then it fell into hyperinflation. Now, that just
Okay, we're gonna leave off there because we are 24 minutes into the video, and I wanna, of course, I'm gonna have to chop it up. So I'm gonna go into another video, and we'll continue with that, and then try to get into some of the points that I want to make in relation to the new founded way of wealth and accumulating wealth and the money transfer, the great transfer of wealth that is going to take place is actually taking place in a slow process, but soon to speed up as we seem to see. So, okay,